Lieutenant Sarah Chen walked through the bustling corridors of Station Kepler 9, her boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. Behind her, two small shapes bounded along, their 6 legs moving in perfect coordination. The Vraken cubs chirped happily as they followed, their razor-sharp teeth visible even when their mouths were closed. Other station personnel pressed themselves against the walls, their various species united in terror at the sight of the young predators. Sarah didn't notice. She was too focused on getting to the restricted sector meeting on time. Admiral Torvax had summoned all senior officers for an emergency briefing, and she couldn't be late. Not again. The cubs, barely 3 months old, had imprinted on her the day she'd found them in the wreckage of a cargo vessel. Their mother had died protecting them from pirates, and when Sarah had crawled through the debris, the tiny creatures had latched onto her immediately. Every xenobiologist on the station had warned her that Vrakens were apex predators from a death world, that even the young ones were dangerous, that no species in the known galaxy had ever successfully domesticated them. Sarah had listened politely, and then taken them back to her quarters anyway. She reached the security checkpoint for the restricted sector and placed her hand on the scanner. The blue light swept over her palm, analyzing her biometric data. Behind her, the cubs tumbled over each other, playing and growling in their squeaky, not yet threatening voices. The security officer, a threll with 4 eye stalks, looked at Sarah with something between pity and horror. "Lieutenant, you cannot bring those creatures into restricted areas. Station regulations clearly state—" "They go where I go, Sergeant Krax," Sarah interrupted, keeping her voice firm but polite. "We've been through this." Sergeant Krax's eye stalks drooped in resignation. He'd lost this argument 17 times already. "Just pass through quickly, please." Sarah stepped through the scanner gate. The cubs followed immediately, unwilling to be separated from their human for even a moment. The advanced security system hummed as it analyzed everything passing through its threshold. Sarah had been through this checkpoint hundreds of times. The scan usually took 2 seconds. This time, alarms erupted throughout the corridor. Red lights flashed. A harsh klaxon blared. The scanner's display screen flickered rapidly through dozens of alien languages before settling on Standard Galactic. The words that appeared made Sergeant Krax's eye stalks shoot straight up in alarm. "Restricted assets detected. Classification: Omega-7. Security Protocol Alpha engaged." Metal barriers slammed down on both sides of the checkpoint, sealing the area. Armed security personnel materialized from hidden alcoves, their weapons trained on the cubs, who had stopped playing and were now growling protectively around Sarah's legs. "Stand down!" Sarah shouted, spreading her arms to shield the cubs. "They're just babies!" "Step away from the organisms, Lieutenant," a mechanical voice announced from the ceiling. "Omega-7 assets require immediate quarantine." "What the hell is an Omega-7? Sarah demanded, not moving an inch. Admiral Torvax's voice crackled through the comm system. "Chen, what's happening down there? My entire security board just lit up like a festival display." "The scanner tagged the cubs as restricted assets, sir," Sergeant Krax reported, his voice shaking. "Omega-7 classification. I've never seen anything rated that high." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Torvax, who had commanded fleets in 3 wars and never showed emotion, said something that made everyone in the corridor freeze. Dear merciful void, how did a human get hold of Omega-7 assets? Sarah looked down at the cubs, who were pressing against her legs and staring at the armed guards with growing hostility. They were scared. She could feel them trembling. "Sir, with respect, these are Vraken cubs, just regular predators from Sector 18. I've had them for 3 months. "Chen, Vrakens aren't just predators," the Admiral said. And for the first time since Sarah had known him, he sounded shaken. "They're seekers." "Seekers?" Sarah knelt down, placing her hands on the cubs. They calmed immediately at her touch. Classified information, Lieutenant, but given the circumstances... Admiral Torvax sighed. 700 years ago, the Frakens nearly wiped out the collective. They weren't animals. They were engineered bioweapons created by the Zethon Empire during the Extinction Wars. Each Vraken is a living weapon system, capable of tracking targets across star systems, adapting to any environment, and killing with absolute efficiency. When the Zethons lost the war, the collective hunted down every Fraken and contained them on their homeworld. That planet has been quarantined ever since. No one is supposed to have access to them. They're rated Omega-7 because a single adult Vraken could theoretically kill everyone on this station. Sarah's hands tightened protectively on the cubs. That's ridiculous. They're sweet. They play with toys. They curl up in my bed at night. Because you're human, a new voice said. Dr. Yixal, the station's chief xenobiologist, had arrived. The insectoid scientist clicked her mandibles thoughtfully as she approached, ignoring the security personnel's warnings. I've been researching your situation, Lieutenant, ever since you refused to surrender the cubs. I wanted to understand why they hadn't killed you. The answer is fascinating. I'm listening, Sarah said. Humans are persistence predators, Dr. Yixal explained. Your species evolved by literally chasing prey until it died of exhaustion. You have psychological traits that let you bond with other predators in ways most species cannot. Empathy combined with dominance. Patience combined with determination. The Vrakens were engineered from the genetic material of apex predators, but the Zethons never gave them pack structures. They made them solitary killers. The doctor pointed at the cubs with one of her 6 limbs. Those 2 imprinted on you because you have something their own species lacks. You gave them a pack, a family, and to a Vraken, pack is everything. They would die for you without hesitation. More importantly, they would kill for you. I'm not planning on ordering them to kill anyone, Sarah said firmly. You won't have to, Admiral Torvax said through the comm. If they perceive a threat to you, they'll act on instinct. And once they're fully grown, those instincts will be backed by abilities that make most military weapons look primitive. Vrakens can see electromagnetic fields, track chemical signatures across kilometers, and move faster than most species can perceive. An adult can bite through hull plating. Sarah looked down at the cubs, who gazed back at her with their multifaceted eyes, full of trust and affection. So, what happens now? You're going to take them away? There was a very long silence. Then Admiral Torvax said something that shocked everyone listening. Actually, no. Chen, I'm promoting you to Special Assets Handler and giving you full authorization to keep those cubs. They've already bonded with you. Trying to separate you would likely result in them going feral and killing everyone within 100 meters. Besides, the collective has been trying to develop a Vraken program for centuries. We've never succeeded because we can't get them to bond with handlers. And I did it by accident, Sarah said, a smile tugging at her lips. Typically human, the Admiral agreed, and there was warmth in his voice now. You looked at one of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures and saw babies that needed help. That kind of irrational compassion has always been humanity's strangest trait. Also, its most valuable. The security barriers lifted. The guards lowered their weapons, though they didn't look happy about it. Sergeant Krax made a notation on his data pad, his eye stalks trembling. Lieutenant Chen and associated Omega-7 assets are now cleared for all restricted sectors, the Admiral announced. Anyone who has a problem with that can file a complaint with my office. I'll get to it sometime next century. Sarah stood up, and the cubs immediately flanked her, moving with a coordination that hinted at the deadly weapons they would someday become. As she walked toward the conference room, other officers parted before her like water, their eyes wide with fear and respect. Dr. Yixal fell into step beside her. You realize you're now responsible for 2 living weapons of mass destruction? I'm responsible for 2 kids who lost their mother, Sarah corrected, Everything else is just details. That attitude is why humans are either the galaxy's greatest hope or its most terrifying threat, the doctor observed. Why not both? Sarah asked cheerfully. The cubs chirped in agreement, and somewhere in that innocent sound was the echo of their lethal potential. But Sarah just scratched behind their sensory ridges, and they purred like oversized, extremely dangerous kittens. In the observation bay above, Admiral Torvax watched the human and her deadly companions disappear down the corridor. His aide, a nervous Prelian, whispered, "Sir, are you sure this is wise?" The Admiral thought about humanity's long history of befriending wolves, riding horses into battle, training eagles to hunt, and turning wild predators into loyal companions. He thought about their unique ability to see danger and respond, not with fear, but with affection. Wise? Probably not, he admitted, but it's the most human thing I've ever seen. And human instincts have saved the galaxy more times than anyone wants to admit. Far below, Sarah entered the conference room with an Omega-7 asset on each side, ready to discuss station security. The other officers stared. The cubs sat obediently at her feet. And in that moment, every species in the collective was reminded why humans, despite being physically weaker and technologically younger, had become indispensable to galactic civilization. They possessed something no other species truly understood: the ability to turn monsters into family,